Board of Trustees of the Sequoia Community College District. Today is Monday, April 8th, 2024. And for closed session, actually give me 1 second. We do have one reportable item before we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I apologize. I know it's in here. I would like to report that by a unanimous vote, the board took action in closed session to approve a resignation agreement and release of all claims regarding employee 00333336 effective March 29, 2024. With that, if you can help me stand to pledge allegiance to our flag. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will move on to public comment. Per Board Policy 2350, any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with a maximum time of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who'd like to make public comment concerning items on the agenda. We'll move to public comment concerning items not on the agenda. There's no one up. We'll move on to board and executive staff reports, starting with our student trustee report. Ms. Parker.
Hello, everyone. Things I would like to report on. In Hanford, there will be 2 job fairs. There's going to be an education job fair for our students on April 18th. Later in May, actually, there is going to be a healthcare job fair on May 14th over in Hanford. We've been having a lot of job fairs recently, a lot of industry partners coming out to our campuses to be able to meet up with our students. Students are asking questions. I work in the Transfer and Career Office, so I see a lot of these industry partners, and our students are learning a lot from these partners coming over here and sitting down with our students. And even me, I learned, today we had a culinary one, and I learned a lot about culinary. I'm not even a culinary major, can't even cook, period, so I did learn a lot from them. Over in Tulare, they had an ag job fair. There was over 238 students in attendance, along with 100 plus industry partners from 58 companies in attendance over at the job fair. And there was also more than 60 of our staff members at the job fair as well in Tulare. And then our report from Visalia, our gala is coming up in 2 weeks. Roughly. Tickets are $5. Everyone is allowed to bring a significant other partner that does not come to COS, whether you are a staff member or a student. Like I said last time, you all are invited with your tickets being free, complimentary of Student Senate and the Student Activities and Affairs Office. Last thing I would like to touch on is our DC trip. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. It was definitely a weird experience because you see all these monuments and you learn all of the things about the Capitol in history classes, and being able to see it in person was really mind-blowing. Things that I really stood out to me was the changing of the guard at the Unknown Soldiers Memorial. It was really interesting to see. It's a very important ceremony. You sit there in silence, watch the guard change, and they protect, obviously, the tomb of the unknown soldier. Another thing that stood out was the Korean War Memorial. It was a very beautiful memorial. It has soldiers pertaining to all military branches leading up to the remembrance pool, and has a wall of all of our soldiers that served during the Korean War and sadly had passed away. But other than that, that concludes my report for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Moving on to board member reports. Trustee Sherman.
I would just like to report, I'm on the committee for the President's Golf Tournament, and last I've heard, we're up to 19 teams of 6-person teams, and we should hit the goal of the $25,000 for the athletic department.
Trustee Nunes.
Yes, I had the pleasure of attending the Hall of Fame Awards dinner a couple of weeks ago. 3 very fine folks were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Dave Bronson, who was a longtime long-distance running coach here at COS. Jerry Dyer, who was currently the mayor of the city of Fresno and was police chief for a long time. He was a former student at the academy at COS here. And then last but not least, his first name escapes me, Mr. Sheasley. Brian Sheasley, a Visalia native who attended COS and is the proud recipient of 6 Emmy Awards. Not every day we get one of those. So it was a nice event, put together very nicely. It was a great evening.
Very good. Trustee Lane. Trustee Cardoza.
Yes, I'd just like to briefly report that I attended the Ag Advisory Meeting in Tulare. I would like to commend our provost and staff in Tulare. They bring so many industry partners in, and as our student trustee mentioned, the job fair, the work that goes into bringing all those people there so that students can have access to so many opportunities is amazing. But I also enjoyed seeing the just the camaraderie that was there between the people that come in from industry and our community to help build curriculum, and especially with the trade center going on and all the enthusiasm in the room with what's happening out there was really fun. So I look forward to attending that. You know, I believe when everybody's there, it's a yearly event, but those committees are meeting as often as they need to help the faculty develop curriculum and build out our new programs. So it's great.
Wonderful, thank you. I just wanted to mention a few events that I participated in. The Latino Alumni Network event that they had was a gathering of individuals, formerly either employees or students that gathered and did a small little fundraiser. Also attended the Cesar Chavez March, and really want to appreciate COS's participation. They marched from, I believe, I don't know if it's 3rd Street, but North Visalia. They stop at Redwood, and then they end here at COS where they have a reception. They have cultural dances, cultural music, food. There was pozole. It was a really nice event to honor a civil rights leader in our local area.
Did you walk, or did you just show up for the food?
Well, you know, I normally walk, but my wife and children, they had 30 students in Fresno at a Danzantes, which is a conference for ballet folklorico. So I was unfortunately, I didn't get to walk. I was there helping her set up with all her students, and I drove to Visalia, and then I drove right back to Fresno, so unfortunately.
Excused.
I did want to mention that I'm going to be attending the funeral of Dr. Robert Aguilar, who is a former, immediate past board member for the COS Foundation and a former Giant of the Year, a strong advocate and community member in the local area. And then, of course, I'm looking forward to President Calvin's presentations that he does at our local school districts. This week is Visalia Unified and Woodlake. And then at the end of the month will be Cutler Rossi. And I always appreciate learning about or sharing or being present when it's presented how those students are doing here at COS. So that's my report. Okay. Moving forward, foundation report, Mr. Foster.
Good evening. I want to briefly mention a couple of donations or opportunities of support the foundation has given to the college. And I don't want to make this a habit of every time we give money to the college that I come up and report on it. But there was just something unique about this one that I wanted to share with you. There was actually 2 different awards that we gave out, and it was from a new fund that we have. It's an endowment fund called the Winkler Technology Fund. And there's the initial gift of $1.5 million. It generates $75,000 a year, and its intention is to make technology available in the hands of students, regardless of their discipline. Whatever program needs technology, we can fund out of this program. I had a couple of proposals, and we funded both of them recently. One of them is for rocket books, and so this is think of the old day timers. Well, this is day timers with an app, and it's erasable ink. And we're providing them to all of our MESA students, 160 of them. We provided $7,000 to purchase these, and they're building a whole program around putting in your goals and objectives, tracking your time, and helping our students with time management. And so it's like, oh, well, technology, well, it is. It really is taking the benefits of analog and the digital world, and making them more useful for our students as they manage their time. And MESA students have a lot of tough math and engineering and type of courses, and so they've shown to have some benefits there. We had one student say, I didn't realize until the planners that there was so many hours in the week. If I procrastinate one day, I have to make it up on the weekends, which cuts into my fun time. So yeah, that's all right. The other purchase, so just to give you the spectrum here, the other purchase was to purchase sights for our fleet of Glock 9mm handguns in our police academy. I didn't bring one of those, Chief, to show everybody. I kept the Glocks at home. No, but we spent about $19,000 to make sure that these sights are on all of our loaner guns for our cadets. And we did this because these sites are what are being used in our low school precincts. So our students needed to have the latest technology on the guns that they're practicing. So because our expectation is immediately following their time in our academy, they're being hired and so put on the force, and so they are having that practical experience. So I just wanted to show that spectrum and highlight the fact that we have this new program endowment that gives the foundation tremendous freedom to support the college in very unique ways and varied ways as needed. And then I have, of course, our events list that's coming up.
Any questions for Mr. Foster?
Comment, I wanted to apologize to Tim for not attending as the board rep to the foundation. I missed the last board meeting.
Oh, not at all.
There was issue with my calendar.
Well, I appreciate that. I wasn't going to call you out.
Like operator error?
Can you get one of those planners?
Well, all I know is Tim texts me, says, hey, are you coming? And I was about to hit my drive on hole 5. So
We're trying to figure out how to have board meetings on the golf course.
I actually wanted to make a quick comment. I also attended the Hall of Fame, and as an event planner myself, I think it went wonderful. The environment, you couldn't even tell you were at the location that we were at, and so I think it was a really nice gesture to have it the way you set it up for all those inductees, and
Appreciate that.
it was wonderful. So thank you for all the time you put into it.
Thank you.
Next item, accreditation report. Dr. Lacerna. No report. Next up, Superintendent President's report. Dr. Calvin.
All right. Well, you mentioned Dr. Aguilar earlier, and I did want to start my comments with a moment of silence. Dr. Aguilar was just an absolute mentor to so many people in this community, through education and otherwise. Just a real leader. And we talk about our Hall of Fame. We only had 3 this time. He was supposed to be our 4th. We waited 2 or 3 years kind of through COVID to get Hall of Fame going again, and he had been waiting, and then we got a call probably 6 months ago from his son Bobby, who I went to school with, and Bobby just said, you know, my mom is not in good health. My dad isn't either. I'm just thinking the thought is wonderful, but I'm just thinking we should back off and pull his name, and so reluctantly we did that. And then And that was 6 months ago, and wouldn't you know that he passed away the very night before our Hall of Fame event. So our plan is to do it posthumously because he's just been such a wonderful leader. So I wonder if we can get a moment of silence for Dr. Aguilar. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I've got a few things here, and then I've got a PowerPoint slide that I'll share in a moment. But I won't belabor the point, but I was going to also mention the Ag and Trades Job Fair. Dr. Waldner is here, and John Shingle and others that Chelsea that did such a wonderful job on that job fair. Again, 100 employers, a couple hundred students. And what I will kind of belabor the point on is that our students looked so good in part because our giant threads came through and fitted all those students with nice interview attire. And it was just really cool to see. And trust me, I shook hands with about every single one of those students, and they were looking good. So congratulations to everyone that made the Ag and Trades Job Fair a wonderful success. I also want to thank Dr. Shingle and Dr. Lacerna for their work with Senator Melissa Hurtado's office. You all know that 10 years ago, our nursing students from this region were able to get a 5% bump in their points when applying to our nursing school. And you think, why is that important? Well, we rely on local hospitals to give us clinical space for the training that our nurses need. Unfortunately, since our chancellor's office has taken away our ability to give local students a little bit of an edge, we've had an influx of students from the Bay Area and LA, because the cost of living is cheaper here, come and apply and get into our nursing school, occupy those clinical spaces, and then what do they do when they graduate? Poof, they're gone. So our hospitals are kind of done with this. Our hospitals are like, why should we give COS the clinical space when we can give it to private companies that have a little more say in who they educate? And it's not happening next year, but trust me, folks, it's getting to a place where our hospitals may just say, we're not going to work with public institutions like COS any longer that have this rule in place that doesn't allow for locals to get a little preferential treatment. Anyway, Senator Hurtado understands that very well. She understands the importance of health care in this region and has sponsored a bill. It's Senate Bill 1183. It made it through committee unanimously. It'll be voted on, and hopefully we'll get that in place. But that's at least 2 years of dialogue. I mean, we've been talking about it for 5 years, but it's at least 2 years of a lot of dialogue between Dr. Shingle, Dr. Lacerna, and the senator's office, as well as other legislators, to get this in place. So job well done, job well done. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we can get that to keep our local nursing students local. On the subject of healthcare, we hosted a healthcare community summit over the weekend. Doctors, nurses, various medical vendors, as well as our students, high school students, college students, and even students, medical students that are doing their interns or whatever. They converged on COS and had breakout sessions, had a nice lunch with a keynote speaker. Really, really a nice event. I just wanted to specifically thank Daisy Guzman and Tess Hernandez for putting it all together and being such a gracious host to the healthcare community. It was very, very well received. An all-day Saturday is never the thing that you're, standing first in line for, but they did a fabulous, fabulous job. And then finally wanted to just let our board members know and our audience know that Anastasia is being put on by our theater department. It opens on April 25th. Runs 3 days at the 25th, 26th, 27th, and the following week, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of May, including a matinee showing on the 4th and an evening showing on the 4th. So in total, it looks like 7 shows, and I'm told this is one of those you don't want to miss this. Kind of like Beauty and the Beast on the Quad or some of those. You don't want to miss this. So get your tickets and come enjoy that. Our theater folks do such a fabulous job, as do our concert band and choir. So all of that, and then I noticed we have our folks from the library, so I put together just a little PowerPoint that I'll share kind of regarding the LRC and the Educational Support Services building and kind of how they come together. Megan, if you want to just advance to the, oh, is it me? Okay, here we go, technical. So this is the existing floor plan to our current Learning Resource Center, otherwise known as Lodgepole, which houses the library and a few other areas. In the yellow there, in years past, that has been home to our math lab, writing center, and tutorial center. And then when we built the Educational Support Services building, $20 million or so on the southeast corner of campus, those three programs moved to Educational Support Services building. And in its place, we've put the Access and Ability Center that's funded through DSPS funds, Disabled Student Programs and Services. And I'm told it's working out well. The remaining blue is still under, for lack of a better word, maybe still under control of library staff. Right there in the middle is Computer Commons, very popular with our students. They can do research there. They can do, I was over there last week and there were students on Canvas, a couple of guys watching March Madness. There were some gamers. Basically just what you'd expect to find on a college campus, students using computers. And then moving down a little further in the red print there, you see we have a reference desk. If I'm not mistaken, our librarians split time down there. I think they all serve at that reference desk for 10 hours a week each or so. So there's always someone there. There's some study lounge space back to the west of that, and then the circulation desk is on the far right, and there's some storage and reserve behind that. And so what we've proposed is this second one, which doesn't change anything about the AAC or the Computer Commons area, but in the green, what we've proposed is to have a place for our student services, and specifically, although this hasn't been finalized yet, but we've talked about the Student Success Program using some of this area for the very thing that it's used for right now, basically study space. If you know anything about our Student Success Program, it serves about 2,500 to 3,000 students. It's like our disabled student population. It's one of our more vulnerable groups. They're from disproportionately impacted groups. They are required to see a counselor a couple times a year, and then required to see a student success coordinator several times a semester. Oftentimes, they just come to a place like this study lounge and do their homework, and their coordinator checks on them and so forth. And so we felt like a great opportunity to expand those areas. To give you an idea about where they're currently served from, if you remember the work experience office in the northern tip of Sycamore Building downstairs, Lisa Greer's old office. 150 square feet or so. We've got 2 student success coordinators in there that serve a caseload of about 800 students. Not all at one time, obviously, but it does get pretty crowded in there. So that's what the proposal has been. Byron Woods has worked on this. I think we all know and trust Byron to do a great job with all of his facilities projects and work with all end users to make sure that that everyone feels good about the design and what finishes. So then, what we propose to do on the second story is, you see here that this is the existing. Again, the blue is, for lack of a better word, kind of controlled, if you will, by library staff. That big section in the middle is commonly referred to as the stacks, just large library shelving. If you've been up there in recent years, you know that those aren't all used. This day and age, you're just not going to have the amount of books maybe that we once had. And so there's been talk about consolidating and maybe using that space a little more efficiently. And this is what's been proposed there, doing exactly that, consolidating the stacks and being a little more efficient with this space. Again, not touching the private study rooms, the existing private study rooms, nor were we talking, let me just go back a couple, up there in the top 2 study rooms there, same thing, leaving those in place. And then on the second story, doing the same thing. Opening up that room to the far south, though, the librarians teach library classes and so forth, making that into a 40-station computer lab where classes could be taught, or that could be also used for private study and so forth. And then this is the Educational Support Services Building, and you see that of the 14,000 square feet or so, about 12,500 square feet is used for this type of thing, like private study and or group study or tutorial, writing lab, math lab, all in the ESS. And those 7 shaded areas are all private study rooms, similar to the 8 that are currently in the LRC. And I'm sure everybody in this room has been here. It's a fabulous, fabulous space. So, I mean, the end result is shown here. Lots of numbers, so I tried to summarize over on the right. LRC has 8 private study rooms, total of 1,100 square feet. Those will remain in place for all students. Those computer commons remaining in place for all students. The ESS features 5,000 open study area for students, including those 7 shaded study rooms, 1,800 square feet. So in total, you got 80% more private study rooms than we had just a year ago, with 166% more study space available within those private study rooms. And then overall, when you add up the available study space, both in LRC, first and second floor, as well as the ESS, you've got almost 50% more total study space with the combination of the 2 buildings. So I think we've invested heavily in our educational support services and our library services. I think it's really important to see that it's not just kind of how we've done things, but how we've done things, or how we should do things in the future. And I got a kick out of, there were some emails flying around last week, and it was, library is shrinking, and someone, and I don't know who, I didn't really pay attention, but somebody had quoted a man named Harold Howe. It said he was commissioner of education, and I didn't recognize the name, so I looked him up. He served as the commissioner of education under Lyndon B. Johnson, 1965. And that was prior to the internet. That was prior to cell phones, prior to computers, or the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, prior to a lot of things, but prior to all those things. And although I'm sure, you know, what he said was the value a school places on their library is the value they place on education. And I think if Mr. Howe was alive today, and he's not, obviously, he's been dead for a couple decades, but if he was, I think he'd say, $20 million on an educational support services building to increase the number of study rooms by 87% and the square footage by almost triple, you're putting a lot of emphasis on library type services. But I think maybe what we should be doing is listening to our current Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. And he said this: raising the bar for students means keeping those standards high for all of our students. It means meeting students where they are. It means supporting our students who have been historically underperforming, kind of like the students we have in our student success program, those in our disproportionately impacted groups. It means supporting students in rural communities like ours who've suffered a lot during this pandemic. And finally, it means including and supporting students with disabilities like we're trying to do with the AAC in the LRC. So I personally think we're on the right track. I know Byron will do a great job with listening to people and making sure that our LRC and ESS are a fabulous resource for all of our students, and will continue to be a wonderful part of our community. So I wanted to get that out there because I know it's been flying around. We've got library staff joining us. I wanted you to know that the district's commitment has been great to the LRC, and I don't think anybody can argue that. So thank you. Into my report.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Next, we'll move on to item A, Academic Senate President's Report Update. Mr. Arzola.
Good evening, Board President Macareno, members of the board, Superintendent President Dr. Calvin. Thank you for the explanation on the library. I'm gonna leave any detailed response to my colleague from the union. I just will say this, that just one observation. This is the first time that I have heard anything directly from the leadership about the changes. I've sought out the information myself because colleagues of mine have come up to me and asked me since the summer last summer that these plans were rolling out, and I was not aware of it. So I kind of felt like, wow, how am I supposed to respond to colleagues if I'm not being kept abreast of what these facility changes are going to be? Recognizing facility decisions is not a 10+1 matter. I still think it's really important to keep the constituents abreast of what's going on when it comes to facilities decisions. So I'll leave the rest of the response to my colleague from the union. I do got a couple of things that I do want to report. First off, I want to begin my comments with respect to the men's COS basketball team. I had a chance to attend the championship game. The last 4 minutes, I think Trustee Lane and President Calvin, they had to hold me back from rushing the court. I was upset. It was a really good game, and they showed out, and I appreciate the support. There was a lot of community in attendance for the championship game, and we came up a little short, just a little, thanks to the ref. Sorry. The other thing I wanted to report on is I had an opportunity, a great growth opportunity for me. The reason why it brought me down to LA that weekend was I had the opportunity to experience my first peer review team with the ACCJC, and it was a great learning experience. However, the trauma from the basketball loss continues to be pummeled upon me because the chair of my peer review team is the president of the team that won the championship, and she does not hesitate to rub it in my face. So
And came over to my room to rub it in my face. We were both there, and she was rubbing it in that day.
Yeah, so great learning experience, and I'm looking forward to continuing that growth for me. With respect to the Academic Senate, I know I had reported a couple of last meetings with this group, constitutional changes that the Academic Senate were going to be voting on. We held that vote during our spring break, and one of the 3 constitutional amendments were in fact passed. The 2 other shucks, one was defeated by 2 votes, and the other was defeated by 4 votes. Really disheartening, but my hope is that we'll be able to bring back these constitutional amendments next year so we could give them another look and hopefully increase faculty participation in the voting process. And then the last thing that I do want to remind you all, May 8th, Faculty Service Awards for the Academic Senate will be going down. They'll start at 4 o'clock. For the first hour, we'll dedicate for the service award for faculty, and then you're more than welcome to stick around after that for the Academic Senate's general business meeting. And that's all I have. In room 1? It'll be in room 1, yes.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Arzola?
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your report. Next, I'd like to invite Costa President report and update, Ms. Redden.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I just want to start off with many faculty did just find out about the library relocating to the second floor of the Lodgepole building. And I do believe this was a top-down decision made without consulting faculty, including librarians, or referencing data from the students. So a few months ago, we passed a bond to build a university center for $95 million. I was here at the board meeting when that was announced, that the bond passed finally. And that was a great day for Visalia. We were all very proud. Everyone here was just very excited. And now, with the coming of 4-year colleges, we're shrinking our library by half and hiding it upstairs. Decisions at COS must be backed by data and aligned with student needs. So I asked a librarian, and so I have some data to share with us. And here's the power thing that I came up with. So this is our current COS library. Same picture, I know, but sorry, pushing the button. This is the proposed one. No second floor up to the first. I know there's some consolidation going on, but bear with me. I wanted to show you some other schools' library. UC Santa Barbara, I've had the pleasure of visiting their 8th-floor library. It's also open 24/7. Something I would love to have something open here, at least to 10 o'clock at night one time. 24/7 would be nice, but this is UC. We're getting some 4-year universities coming to our school, so I don't expect UC. So let's look at a couple CSUs. CSU Northridge, the Oviatt Library, 4 floors. I just did a little library was closed for 4 weeks after the 1994 earthquake. I was there. And of course, our Cal State Fresno Library, the Henry Madden Library, 5 floors. They boast 365,000 square feet, and there's plans to expand it right now. And these libraries are using all their floors for the library, by the way. Here's our new university center. It's coming soon. Again, we should be growing our library. We should not be hiding it. So what do the students want? Have they been surveyed? Yes, they have. So this is the Motherlode survey. And I'm not, I pulled out a few that I liked. They want more study rooms. Brent, mentioned that. Quiet rooms was mentioned a lot, so I put that one on here. It's a great environment for them to study in the library. And so I've gathered all the data, and I just have, here's where I cut and paste all the rest of the data that I that the librarians helped me find, I should say. I don't want to take credit for it. But you can see on there, more study rooms. They like the quiet rooms. Great environment to study. The very first one, number 11, they like the spaciousness. It's comfortable and peacefulness. So when we consolidate that, I think we're going to lose our spaciousness. So, and here's more Motherlode data. These are more comments. God, I thought I'd be able to read it from here. Sorry. But I've bolded. I see quiet in the first lane. So again, it's, the data's there. And there's more data to use. So enforce a more quiet environment. They really, really appreciate the quiet times, a quiet place. I have, all of these are, I enjoy having a quiet study area. So quiet. So right now, the library does have a much needed quiet floor. As you can tell from the Motherlode survey, they appreciate it. There's concern that if we move student support services to the first floor, this will not be the case anymore. And again, there's a difference between study space and quiet space. With them being pushed to the top floor, some services being added to the first floor, I don't think it's going to be as quiet. The LRC is great. I work back in the math lab, and there's people working in groups all the time. It's definitely a study area, not a quiet study area. And some more data, more study rooms, which it looks like we have, help increase that, which is great. So what does the data say? Again, this is just more of the data. It was, just to show you, this is more study rooms. This is somewhat different, number 523. So the data shows that the students want more space and not less, and we hope this is taken into account. This is one comment that came back from the library remodel survey feedback that was sent out a couple months ago. I'd like to read it. The more funded and spacious the library, the more it encourages use, and the more it communicates to students in the community that we value knowledge, learning, and even research, in part because we have the printed and electronic resources necessary and useful for learning, etc. It seems rather absurd that an institution of higher learning, especially one intended to provide education to those at the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder, will seek to reduce the size and utility of its library rather than at least maintain and possibly increase it. And this is the quote Brent was talking about. Again, I saw the email, and I really liked the quote, and I wanted to share it. But what a school thinks about its library is a measure of what it feels about its education. And so, again, I just plead, let's not hide this library. Let's be proud of it. And I just want to say, lastly, I've witnessed many hard decisions that you've had to make. And I may not have agreed with all of them, but mostly I understand. I do not understand this one. I'm genuinely confused by this decision to hide the library at a time when the COS is growing. I hope we can work together and do what's best for our students and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm just a comment, or maybe you'd like to comment with respect to the how the educational support services facility goes does it go hand in hand with what you're speaking to with respect to the
Well, the educational, I guess the plan is to put one of those services downstairs. And isn't that what you said the plan was? That's what I've read.
The major change is having the student success program in the northern third, let's say, of the you'll still be serving the same population of students. We'll just have student success coordinators in there. There's not going to be a wall up to where we had it green and blue, but librarians are still welcome to sit at the reference desk. And we don't really see it's that big of a change. The librarians are still welcome to sit at the reference desk. The difference is some of the students that are in there, instead of being in Lisa Greer's old office trying to see a student success coordinator there, they'll have a larger study lounge, which encourages them, these students from disproportionately impacted groups, to come and use the LRC more than they do now. So we really don't see that it's that big of a difference. They're all of our students. It's not like we're going to have walls up between green and blue up there. There's just going to be more staff, some of which are student services staff, to help students. The commons aren't going anywhere. The AAC in the south end of that just replaces math, writing, and tutorial centers from before. And we're spending a significant amount of money to remodel the upstairs, and again, consolidate stacks that are sitting empty right now, to where there will be an increased number of quiet space upstairs, in addition to a large glass front to keep any sound damper down. We don't think there's going to be significant noise downstairs, but there will be some, and I think upstairs there will be a large glass door that not only will look great, it'll dampen down the sound. And again, I'm going further than I'm just anticipating things, but Byron will, like he does with every remodel or construction project here, works very closely with end users. Talk to the faculty that have been part of the $40 million CTE complex in Tulare and ask them how closely he's worked with them. Really, really closely. So.
Well, yeah, we trust Byron, of course, but, we've got a 4-year university coming here, and those other schools of libraries I showed you, they've managed to fill the space. It just feels like our libraries can do something.
I've got 2 students at Cal Poly. If you go in Cal Poly's library these days, that first floor is pretty interactive with and it's not as quiet as their upper floors are. There's a fair amount of different services happening on the first floor of Cal Poly. I mean, again, I don't think this is a stretch to think that we should be sharing the space with like a student success program, encouraging our disabled students and our students from disproportionately impacted groups to use our LRC and the library more often. Again, I don't see that this is going to be a bad thing. I think it's going to be a positive thing for everyone, and including our librarians. Our librarians are fabulous, but there's 4 of them. This will just bring more resources to bear for our students and encourage LRC and library usage by some populations that maybe haven't always engaged themselves in it. So thanks for the presentation, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite CSEA President Ms. Kane for your report and update. Oh.
Good evening. I'll be taking Katie's place to provide CSEA's report. So we have brought...
I'm sorry, can you share your
Sorry,
name?
my name is Carolyn Franco, and I'm the CSEA Vice President. So CSEA has brought forth a resolution to the board to recognize Classified School Employees Week at College of the Sequoias. So I wanted to read the letter that Katie had written to the district. So she says, the California School Employees Association respectfully requests that College of the Sequoias to adopt a resolution declaring the week of May 19th through the 25th of 2024 as Classified School Employees Week. The California Legislature adopted the 3rd full week of May of each year as Classified School Employees Week by the passing of Senate Bill 1552 in 1986. So classified employees perform a wide range of essential work, including food services, maintenance and operations, transportation, instructional assistance and paraeducator services, office and clerical work, security, library and media assistance, computer services, and more. We provide daily care, transportation, and instruction for California's students, guiding them from preschool all the way through community college. So the week of May 19th through the 25th of 2024 will be celebrated by school districts and school workers across the state in recognition of the many contributions that classified professionals make to the education community. So on behalf of nearly 250,000 classified employees represented by the California School Employees Association, we urge you to join the state legislature and hundreds of school boards in adopting a resolution declaring the week of May 19th through the 25th as the Classified School Employees Week. A sample resolution is included for your reference. Thank you for your consideration. Are there any questions?
I wonder though, because it is one of our agenda items, if you'll have to repeat that presentation again, but we do have it on.
I have a second letter, so no worries. I'm ready for that. So at this time, we're not asking for anything other than just official recognition. And we also wanted to let you know that our local chapter is going to be fundraising and providing assistance for our fellow classified staff members in emergencies. So, second item to report is our Classified Service Awards went well on March 13th. We'd like to thank Board President Macareno for attending and writing notes to the 25-year award recipients. So this detail was very much appreciated. So thank you. We would like to invite the board to the year-end appreciation lunch on May 10th at 11:30 in the COS Visalia Quad area. The Giant of the Year awards will be given by President Dr. Calvin at that event as well. So negotiations began on March 15th, and the negotiating team feels that conversations are going well. We're looking forward to the next sessions later this month and next, and are hopeful that an agreement will be reached and presented no later than the June board meeting. Thank you for your time.
Much. Next, COSAFA President's update, Ms. Alberti. Not here. Okay, we will move forward. Next is our consent calendar. All items listed in the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any person in the audience and considered as a separate agenda item. The items are minutes of the previous meeting, personnel report, payment of bills, 2023-24, working budget approval, board meeting calendar, revision for the month of July, ratification of 2024-2025 sabbatical, physical therapist assistance program agreement, and then approval of the sole source vendor Klein Education System, and then approval of the sole source vendor Lab Corporation. Would anyone like to pull any of those items for greater discussion?
No, I move to approve.
I have a motion from Trustee Cardoza, a second from Trustee Lane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
I wonder if I can, see Eric Armstrong has joined us, not to embarrass him, but he submitted the sabbatical that we've approved. Eric, I wonder if you could just spend 30 seconds telling us what you're going to do.
So I'm going to finish my Master's in Fine Arts Education on this semester. It is 16 units. You're finishing your creative thesis, and I'm expected to deliver a graduate lecture that I've designed based on what I've learned over the course of the year. So that semester off will allow me to focus on that, and then I'll finish in the summer.
Fabulous. Well, congratulations. Look forward to having you back to tell us all about it. Good job, Eric.
Moving on to action items. Number 10, approval and transfer of 2023-2024 one-time funds, resolution number 2024-03.
Yes,
Mr. Perez.
thank you. Getting being bored, I'm going to be up here for a while. I think I got 5 action items for you. So,
Sure.
Would you like some water?
First one, Resolution 2024-03. Again, this follows our integrated planning resource allocation formula. If you remember last month, it's a 2-phase process. Towards the end of the year, we look at what our surplus in the general fund is going to be. Then we also look at our needs of the district-wide. The president, superintendent, and myself come up with a plan. We share with senior management. We take it to budget committee for their review and approval. Then from there, we go to DGS for their review and approval, and then we take it to the board. First time last month was for information, and then tonight is for adoption. Again, for your memory and for those that are just probably the first time seeing this, it's a $7 million transfer, and you'll see the district needs $2 million for what you heard President Calvin talk about, the Blueprint Fitness that just vacated, and Bell Bonds. We're looking at buying that land there, those two buildings. We already own 4A Liquor, that 1/3. We're in the process of buying the middle half of that strip mall. Now we're looking at buying the other half. Again, all in preparation for the University Center. So that's $2 million setting aside. And then the CTE complex over in Tulare, putting in $1 million for their technology and equipment that'll help outfit that building. And then our COS Technology Department, again, remember in 22-23, they requested $3 million. We granted a little over $1 million last year. And again, this year is $1.5 million. And then lastly is our capital projects. If you remember, the state last year, in the last minute, reduced our scheduled maintenance $5.4 million, which Byron uses for our HVAC, roofs, windows, whatever, upkeep of our utility or our buildings to make sure they're in good shape for our students, staff, and faculty. So we're requesting $2.5 million, so a total of $7 million this year to put in those different pots of money, or different pots. It'll go into Fund 41, our capital projects. Again, once you approve that, or if you approve it, Byron will go ahead and start spending the money on those purposes there. So with that, I'm seeking recommendation and approval of Resolution 24-03 in the amount of $7 million, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from fellow trustees?
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of Resolution 24-03.
Second.
Motion from trustee Nunes, a second from trustee Sherman. Megan, if you can roll call the board.
Trustee Nunes?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza? Aye. Trustee Lang?
Aye.
Trustee Macareno?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Item 11, purchase of real property, resolution number 2024-07. Mr. Perez.
Yes, the district is seeking to purchase a commercial building, or it was an LDS building over right across the street in Woodland and Noble, where parking lot 9 is, so it's the northwest corner of campus. That recently came vacant. We have interest in that. We had an appraisal done, $365,000. The district has offered $360,000. They accepted our offer. So with that, we're still in negotiations, and I don't know if Superintendent President Calvin, you might want to share some of the plans we may have for that building?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just having it right next to our parking lot on the northwest corner of our campus, it's tough to let an opportunity like this go by. It was a residential house for a long time, for the last 20 years. The LDS Church has operated a training center there. It's less than 1,500 square feet, but it has a nice parking and a nice little courtyard behind it. And so when it came available, we felt like we needed to pursue it. There were 3 or 4 other bidders, and thankfully, I don't know that we were the highest bidder. They're not required to take the highest bid, but I think they wanted to get close to their highest bid, but also have a partner that wasn't going to turn it into something that could maybe bring bad publicity back on the LDS or something like that. So anyway, we were fortunate. They've accepted our bid pending this approval. In terms of what we'll use it for, we've talked with our foundation in the past. I know the foundation would like to either build or buy something for an alumni house, which they could partner with us on that. There's also a couple other options for that alumni house. We have an interest in having a spot off campus, maybe just off campus, as a way to bring groups in and speak to them. I mean, I've always said I would, rather than me going out to 40 different service clubs a year, it'd be great to have some of those come to us not to cut down on my travel, but just so they can see our gorgeous campus. I love it when people come to our concerts, our plays, our summits of whatever, our athletic events, because they come here for one event, and they leave with a greater knowledge of everything that we offer here. And I have people say, man, you guys got it going on. You do, Yes, but you wouldn't have known that if you hadn't come for this one event. And so we've talked about just the opportunity to have service clubs and board of supervisors and city councils and the Realtors Association and the Nurses Association and on and on and on. 30, 40 groups a year. If I could just schedule it that every Thursday from 4:30 to 5:30 at this place right across campus, so we might be able to serve wine and cheese and so forth. It might be a fun opportunity to engage in our community in a way that we haven't done it in the past. So that's one option. If we did that, we might brand it, instead of like giant marketplace and giant threads like we have on one end of campus, maybe giant conference center or something like that. We just think that there's some sizzle there. But we'll keep working with the foundation, and if it goes with the COS Foundation Alumni House, that's a neat thing too. So whatever it's going to be great, and we'll just kind of wait and see kind of at what level the foundation wants to partner before we make any long-term plans.
I move we approve Resolution 2024-07.
A motion from trustee Sherman, a second from trustee Cardoza. Megan, if you can roll call board.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Lang?
Aye.
Trustee Nunes?
Aye.
Trustee Margarino?
Aye. If I can I make a quick comment? I heard before that we used to have, for our Hall of Fame, multiple photo frames up in maybe room 1 or something. I don't know if we have those anywhere. All the previous, so it would be nice if we had one location that display our Hall of Fame and had all those photos, and I like that idea, so thank you.
And if I didn't say it in my little narrative there, part of what we thought about is building a larger building, maybe the size of room 1,
Okay.
in the parking lot directly behind the 1,400 square foot building that's there. That has a classroom, a great room, bathrooms, a kitchen, but it's pretty small. If we had just one big rectangular space behind it, it might be a nice place, again, to host the kind of things I was just talking about. So if I hadn't mentioned that, that's a key piece.
You're not going to pack in that little living room 40 feet.
I don't think so.
They may not come back.
No.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12, tax exempt obligation bonds expenditure reimbursement, resolution number 2024-04. Mr. Perez.
Yes, thank you. So this resolution, 2024-04, is seeking your approval, which allows, well, let me step back. So November 22, the district passed a $95 million bond. We're going to build a university center and student union facility. We are going to go, Byron need to start the work right away. So the district, with your approval, set some money aside, so allowed Byron to start spending money on the planning, permitting, infrastructure of the university center. So we've started that already. So we've already started expending our dollars. What this resolution is going to allow us to do is to reimburse ourselves from the bond proceeds. So Resolution 2024-04, with your approval, will allow the district to reimburse themselves for the expenditures we made out of Capital Fund 41. The plan is to go out to the market in July of this year to sell all of our bonds at $95 million all at one spot. And as we promised the taxpayers, it'll be $13 per $100,000 assessed value. We've been working with our financial advisor and our bond underwriter and the County of Tulare, and we're confident in that number. So more to follow on that. We'll have a bond presentation not only for you, but everybody in the audience. That'll be coming to the board in June for approval. So probably in May, we'll have it as information, in June, again, as an action item. So again,
Excuse me, how soon do we have to complete the project once we float the bond?
so you float the bond, you have 3 years to expend 85% of your bond proceeds. So we've done a cash flow, Byron and myself, and we'll hit the 85% within 3 years.
But that's why we're doing it this way. We only wanted to have
Right.
one series.
I remember that.
Because I don't want a whole bunch of series on the property tax bill. People will start saying, hey, well, I didn't approve 4, and they do that, even though it's one bond, 3 or 4 different series. We wanted to have one series, but if we would have started it just to pay ourselves, or pay the design costs, we wouldn't have been able to get 85% of the total thing done in 3 years. So that's why we're fronting the design money.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Perez? Motion from trustee Lane.
Second. Gloria can have it.
Second from trustee Cardoza. Megan, if you can roll call.
Trustee Lane?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Nunez?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Moreno?
Aye.
Ron, just one last, and I apologize if this is not really related, but it is, because I've heard it a couple times today, the fact that we did pass, or the voters of the SFID here in Visalia passed the bond measure to generate these funds. But if you look at what's happened in Fresno County, and a lot of you probably heard the ads on radio that Fresno State claims that, and I don't have any reason to doubt that they have hundreds of millions of dollars in deferred maintenance that has gone away because of the state funding situation for CSUs especially. And they had a measure for the second time, and this in Fresno County, which was a sales tax measure to fund, it was a 20 or 25-year sales tax, and it amounted to 1 penny per $4 of taxable funds that are spent. 1 penny per $4, and it failed miserably. And why did it fail? People, I think the biggest reason I heard was that it's the state's responsibility, since it's a CSU, to provide the funds to for those projects. Well, the money's not coming from the state, and so it's just a testament to what we were able to do. And I say we, I use that term loosely because I didn't really do anything. But the work that was done here to pass this, it becomes more amazing every day.
Not only the bond itself, but if you saw their campaign, Measure E, I think it was called, is they were showing dilapidated classrooms, broken windows. Then it goes back to the residents saying, how are you spending your money? Are you fiscally prudent in spending your money? So the direct thing we just did with one-time funds, you just approved $2.5 million to go into scheduled maintenance. That's what Byron's going to do. So we don't have those broken down things. So when we go on the tour with the president, every morning we make sure everything's good to go.
I think in one of the presentations that I heard, one of the speakers explaining the funding, the CSUs are kind of left to beg for, they get what they get, and the UCs are kind of constitutionally guaranteed a certain amount of funding, if I'm understanding the system correctly. K through 12, Prop 98 kind of guarantees a certain amount of funding, and then what's left is what they get, which in most cases it's not enough.
Then my last comment is,
And anyway, that's just a little soapbox stuff that really doesn't relate.
and my last comment, Trustee Nunez, is remember last year the state pulled $5.4 million from scheduled maintenance. So we made it up doing one-time funds. So we take using one-time funds for scheduled maintenance very seriously. So,
But they pulled it. They pulled it 10 months in. 10 months after they had approved it, they pulled it. They give you things 1 year, and then almost to the end of that next budget year, they pull it back. Not many community colleges in our system could weather that. And while I'm talking, I'm glad you brought it up, because we had a wonderful campaign marketing plan, and she just happens to be in in the audience, Lauren Fishback did a wonderful job of putting together that campaign program, and we executed it well. So way to go, Lauren. Probably the last time we'll see her at a board meeting because of that.
Well, I think we had a pretty good speaker that went around and talked to everybody, too.
I don't know about that. We won it in spite of me, I think.
No. You were a big reason behind that. Selling it.
Thank you for your comments. We'll be moving forward to item 13, approval of sole source vendor Pacific West Sound, resolution number 2024-06. Mr. Perez.
Yes, Resolution 2024-06 is a ratification of a contract with Pacific West Sound. They are our vendor of choice. We started using those folks when COVID hit. We needed the high-flex classrooms in place. So they came on campus, worked with the IT department to actually build high-flex classrooms, high-flex podiums, Zoom, and all that. So this one particularly, we're using it for the ESS building. Those of you may or not know, all of our funds and all of our checks go through the County Office of Ed, and they audit them and review those. They pulled this one out seeking board approval, that we had board approval for Pacific West Sound. So that's why I'm taking it to you. If you notice, the other two sole sources were on consent. That's because that's advanced. This is after the fact, so this is why this is an action item. Yes. So with that, I'm seeking approval for Resolution 2024-06 as a ratification of a purchase order that we've already expended to this vendor.
So moved.
Second. Motion by trustee Sherman, seconded by trustee Nunes. Bacon, if you can.
Just a comment prior to that. I certainly want to put on record that this member, if and I think the board vote say this as well, is fully in support of the fact that the facts are here to support the sole source. That's it. Period.
Thank you.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Nunes?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza? Aye. Trustee Lane?
Aye.
Trustee Macarena?
Aye. Item 14, student trustee Madison Parker. I am going to ask you for an advisory vote prior to our vote, if that's okay. So Mr. Perez will present, and then I will ask you for your advisory vote.
Thank you. This action item is for a member of our Measure J Tulare SFID bond. Her term of office expires this month, this year, and we'd like to renew her for another year. I think by the time another year, we'll pretty much be done with the Citizens Oversight Committee. So with that, seeking approval of Gloria Ramirez as our student rep. She's been very active in the Citizens Oversight, very, very good representative of the students. So seeking approval of Gloria Ramirez for April 7th of 2025 for our Citizens Oversight Committee.
Assume she's aware of it.
She is aware of it, yes.
And well,
Yeah, I don't have any
We'll tell
questions.
you after the vote.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Cardoza,
Okay.
second by trustee Sherman. And then I'd like to call for an advisory vote from student trustee Madison Parker. How would you like to vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item 15, bid award, access control door hardware retrofit, COS Hanford campus. Mr. Woods.
Yes, good evening. When the COS Hanford campus was initially constructed back in 2010, we had, the district had installed an access control door hardware system known as the Schlage Vanderbilt system. Unfortunately, within a few years, the system became obsolete, was no longer supported by Schlage, and we've been just limping along for the last decade. Yeah, and I've been here since, 2015, and I know it's been a problem ever since. Just to clarify, district police does oversee the management of the system. Facilities oversees the maintenance of it. We tried getting the local vendor, Matson Alarm, to help us troubleshoot, but it's gotten to the point where we just need to replace the system with something more modern and user-friendly for us. So working with district police, we're proposing to implement the ASA Abloy access control system. ASA Abloy is an international company, worldwide leader in the industry for sure when it comes to access control. And just to clarify, access control is the fob system, like a hotel room, the key, fob the card reader. Hanford is the campus that has this system. Our goal is to eventually roll this out district-wide so we can get rid of this big keychain on the hip here. So we did solicit bids, a formal bid process, advertised in the local newspapers, the local plan rooms, and on our district website. On March 26th, we opened bids. We had one bid from a certified installer. That was one of the requirements for this system. There are a handful throughout the state. This one in particular is Staley Construction Incorporated out of Salinas. So they provided a base bid of $589,933. And you'll see in the notes in this agenda item that we will try to utilize. It's going to be hardwired for the most part. We're going to try to utilize our existing infrastructure out there as much as we can, probably 90% of it. And the existing system, the Schlage Vanderbilt system, will stay active while we're implementing the new one. So at one point, we'll have both systems operating at the same time, and then eventually the other one will fall off at the very end. Our plan is to construct it all during the summer. So very aggressive timeline, and if for some reason we cannot finish by August, we'll come back and implement it either at winter break or in between weekends, whatever we can do with the contractor. So with that, I am requesting on behalf of the district to award Staley Construction's contract $589,933.
Questions for Mr. Woods? Excuse me.
Labor and material you're talking
Correct.
about.
Yep, turnkey.
I have a question for Michelle. What do you think?
I shouldn't ask you.
Why don't you ask Chief Charles over here?
Second.
We have a motion from trustee Lane, a second from trustee Cardoza. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I also understand we had a facelift on the Hanford campus recently.
There's a little paint out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite done. I think we just about finished the education and public safety buildings and the pavilion.
I'm not sure who planned it originally, but it was maroon, and that just wouldn't do.
What? Good.
So
Looking nice.
we switched over to a nice navy blue. It looks gorgeous, and doing some retrofit to the big video board out on 13th as well, and we're doing the same thing on Bardsley at Tulare. So they have these marquees more like what we have here on Mooney. So nice job.
Thank you.
The grass is much nicer, so kudos to the landscape crew.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Franco? Is it Franco? Yeah. Moving to item 16, resolution to recognize Classified School Employee Week at the College of the Sequoias, resolution 2024-05.
Thank you.
Mr. President, does she have to read it again?
No.
Maybe just the whereas part.
Okay, I'll just read the first line of the resolution. Whereas classified professionals provide valuable services to the schools and students of College of the Sequoias. So CSEA is requesting that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 2024-05.
Questions or comments?
So moved.
Motion from trustee
I will
Cardoza
gladly second that.
and second from trustee Nunes. Megan, if you can write a roll call vote.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Nunes?
Aye.
Trustee Lane?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Macaroni?
Aye. And I'm
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Marilyn.
Item 17, curriculum, new, modified, and deleted. Dr. Lacerna.
Good evening. This report has been approved by the Curriculum Committee and the Academic Senate, and we're recommending that the board approve the curriculum. We have 4 new courses that are non-credit senior skills music courses that are intended to allow community members to participate with our band and our theater and our choir. Yes, you can do it.
So, Jennifer, I'm just going to interrupt because this
Yep.
is funny that this is here. I attended a funeral last week here in Visalia, and there was a row of women in front of me, and they started talking about playing in the symphony and having played here and just talking about COS. It was just so fun to hear them. So I'm sure they're part of someone that will be part of these classes, but it was just so inspiring to hear them all talk about how they enjoy playing and they enjoy what COS does and that they can still participate. So
That's great.
for all it's worth, I was eavesdropping, I was
The
listening.
community band and the community choir is
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yes.
And sometimes they'll end up with the 3 or 4 of our bands or choirs on stage at one time, and you may have 150 people on stage at one time performing together. It's really, really cool, really, really neat.
That's great.
Yes. Thank you, Lori. Sorry, Trustee Cardoza. Thank you. That was great. And then course modifications. We have several course modifications. These are regular 5-year reviews, modification to program, and 2 modifications to program that are regular 5-year reviews. So short report. That's it.
Questions for Dr. Lacerna? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
Motion, Trustee Sherman, seconded by Trustee Lane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 18, Board Policies, second review, Dr. Calvin.
Thank you, President Macareno. We've got 4 BPs, and we've seen them once. They are all 4 are 10+1 items. So President Arzola and his crew have seen them and maybe taken a keener eye to look at these because they are 10+1. They've made it through the process and they're ready for final approval. You see the bold and underlined for new information or crossed out anything that's not remaining. So happy to answer any questions or accept a motion.
Can we approve them all under one motion?
Yes.
I would just like to comment on how I just believe so strongly in how we go through our policies because so many organizations lose track when things get outdated and so many issues occur from that. So I mean, I know we're obligated to a certain extent by Ed Code, and so many of these are dictated by Ed Code, but the fact that we visit them and that they go through academic senate and we do what we're supposed to and we may even discuss, sometimes what's in them, but I believe it's just such a great, something.
I think we all agree with you, but I also think that when it comes to staying on schedule, it's kind of the bane of Megan, Jennifer, John, Juan. I mean, so many of us are just like the schedule itself. We all agree with you, but just staying on schedule, there's so many of them.
It's like it's never done.
Yes,
That's
and
why,
we
too.
we try to introduce 10 a month and stay on schedule and 10 BPs and APs. You don't see the APs, but the
That's the
BPs
grunt work.
normally have APs with them as well. But having served on several accreditation review teams now, that's one of the things that people get in hot water about is that they get to some and they don't get to others, and pretty soon, 20 years have gone by.
Yeah, and they have policies that they think are there that were never written, that it just somebody talked about. So,
Correct.
yes.
Correct. So thank you for acknowledging that. It is a lot of work, the staying on schedule and getting enough into the pipeline. It's tough work, but thank you.
Well, and I always thought that there should be a way, but this would just be more work, to prioritize them to Sunsol, right? I'm sure that there's a third of these that are really important there's a third that are kind of normal to get through, but going through them all is probably the best way, but sometimes I'm like, oh, do these have to come up this often, you know, but.
Well, yeah, we may need
We don't get
to
to
step
pick
on
and
the
choose.
gas before our next accreditation visit. We may have a little task force, and Juan's been great about saying, we may have to put together a little task force from a few of us.
Pull a few more through.
And then, well, yeah, maybe approve instead of 10 at a time, maybe 50 or 60 or 70 at a time, and then come back to our larger groups and just say, we've gone through these, there was nothing substantial, let's get them all approved. Because there is a lot where you're just kind of crossing Ts and dotting Is.
Nothing's
You're not changing much. Normally, the league, the CCLC will come out with any major changes that we can follow. So we may do a little bit of that before our next accreditation visit, but by and large, we're pretty much on schedule. And Megan does a wonderful job of shepherding this. So thank you to Megan for keeping us clean on that.
I think there's a motion on the floor, I'll second.
Sorry, who motioned?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'm pretty sure I heard you.
I can't remember.
Intended to. No.
Happened so long.
Motion.
I will second.
Seconded from trustee Nunes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 19, board policies, first read. Dr. Calvin.
Yep, 2, 10+1, and 1 non-10+1. Not much changing in any of the 3. We'll see it again next month, but happy to answer any questions you have right now.
Any questions for Dr. Calvin?
So,
Second read.
second.
Motion from trustee Lane, seconded from trustee Cardoza. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Wonderful meeting. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, man.